When the Kumo Desu anime ended, a lot of fans felt like the story was only just beginning. And honestly, that feeling was completely correct. Because the craziest part of Kumo Desu hasn't even come close to being animated yet. And the most interesting part is that many anime-only viewers have no idea how insane the scale of the story becomes afterward. Because at first, Kumo Desu feels relatively simple. A girl reincarnated as a spider trying to survive inside a deadly dungeon. But there's one problem. The story keeps growing. And it grows in a completely insane way. The real question is, what happens after the anime that makes so many readers say the true story starts there? At the beginning of the series, almost everything revolves around survival. Kumoko fights to stay alive, evolves, unlocks new abilities, faces increasingly dangerous monsters. Everything feels like a fairly normal isekai structure. But little by little, hints begin to appear that something much bigger is happening. Especially when the story starts focusing on other characters. Because that's the moment Kumo Desu stops feeling like a simple evolution story, and starts revealing something far more dangerous. The entire world is broken, and almost nobody realizes it at first. The first major shift happens when we discover that the system of that world doesn't exist by accident. And that changes everything. Until then, it just looked like a normal RPG system. Levels, skills, evolutions, stats. But as the story progresses, it becomes clear that the system is actually a tool designed to sustain the world itself. And this is where the scale completely explodes. Because now the discussion is no longer, how will Kumoko become stronger? The question becomes, what happens when the system itself starts collapsing? And that's the moment Kumo Desu transforms into something completely different from what the anime appeared to be. Because Kumoko changes too. A lot. At first, she's simply trying to survive. But once she discovers the truth about the world, her decisions begin affecting absolutely everything. Wars, nations, religions, entire races, even the balance between gods. And that creates an enormous transformation in her character. Because she stops being just a protagonist trying to survive, and becomes one of the most dangerous existences in that universe. And somehow, that still isn't the craziest part. One of the biggest shocks in the light novel is discovering who's truly controlling events behind the scenes. Because for a long time, many events seem like coincidences. But they aren't. There are characters manipulating the entire world from the shadows. And when the story finally reveals the scale of those manipulations, many parts of the anime suddenly make sense. Especially Ariel. Because the more we learn about her, the clearer it becomes that her importance was far greater than it initially seemed. And that completely changes her relationship with Kumoko. What once looked like a strange rivalry becomes something much deeper. But there's still something even crazier. The gods. And this is where Kumo Desu truly becomes insane. Because the story stops being just about monsters and evolution. It starts dealing with beings capable of influencing entire worlds. Gully Gully. Serial. At this point, the scale of the story becomes so massive that the anime starts feeling like little more than a prologue. And that completely changes how viewers see Kumoko. Because she stops being just a smart girl surviving inside a dungeon. She begins approaching beings capable of changing the fate of the world itself. And once that happens, the tone of the series changes completely. But perhaps the craziest part is realizing that the story had been hinting at all of this since the very beginning. The time skips. The strange events. The suspicious behavior. The differences between characters. Everything was connected. And once the light novel starts revealing those connections, the story suddenly feels enormous. Because readers realize that Kumo Desu was never simply an isekai about a spider becoming stronger. It was a story about a world on the verge of collapse. And about characters trying to prevent everything from falling apart. Even if it means destroying other things along the way. So what is the true insane part that still hasn't been animated? The answer isn't just a battle. Or a transformation. Or a specific power-up. It's the complete shift in the scale of the story. The anime only showed the beginning of Kumoko's journey. But the light novel transforms that story into something far bigger. Politics. Manipulation. Gods. World collapse. Conflicts capable of affecting the entire existence of that universe. And maybe that's exactly why so many fans say the same thing after finishing the novels. Kumo Desu looked like a weird isekai. Until the story revealed how insane it truly was. What do you think? Does Kumo Desu deserve another season? Or do you think the anime could never properly adapt the craziest part of the story? Let me know in the comments.